Hello everyone. Previous video we have started chapter human health and diseases. In the beginning we have got an idea about how we can say a person is healthy and what is the definition of health. Thereafter we have also started with the different diseases commonly we are suffering from, their causative agents, symptoms, and how we can avoid having them. That means preventive measures. In today's video, we are going to start with another common disease which commonly found around us. It is malaria. Malaria is caused by the pathogen Plasmodium. There are four species of Plasmodium. Those are present around us causing the malaria. In that, Plasmodium vivax, Plasmodium malariae, Plasmodium ovale, and Plasmodium falciparum. This malignant malaria caused by Plasmodium falciparum, which is fatal, means which causes death, severe symptoms and death. So it is one of the dangerous species of Plasmodium who causes malaria and causing the death of the person. Organs affected, especially the malaria affects liver initially and there the RBCs of the blood. Method of transmission, uh, they are passing through biting of female Anopheles mosquito. Female Anopheles mosquito is the vector of malarial parasite because this malarial parasite completes its life cycle through two hosts. One is female Anopheles mosquito, the half life cycle is completed, and remaining half life cycle of them is completed by entering into the body of human being. The symptoms of malaria: high fever and chill. Fever occurs on every alternate day. It also causes vomiting. If you see on the slide, you will get a clear cut idea about organ wise the symptoms which you can observe or sense in the phase of malarial infection. So where the skin gets the chills and sweating, then respiratory tract or respiratory system is getting infection and shows the dry cough. Spleen enlargement in the spleen is also observed. Stomach, nausea and vomiting. Nausea means not having interest in eating, then because of the vomiting, because whatever the person is having as food, immediately he feels like vomiting. So this is why the nausea is created. Then back pain is also seen, muscular fatigue and pain. So most of the body muscles are paining and they are becoming tired. Fatigue means tiredness. Systemic fever is one of the symptom, and the central headache. In the head you will find headache is a symptom of malaria or the person who is suffering from the malarial infection. The next slide shows or tells you about the proper pathway or the proper idea you will get about the life cycle of the malarial parasite, how it is completing through two hosts. One is female Anopheles mosquito and one is the human. So when the female Anopheles mosquito sucks the blood of infected person, whoever is suffering from this malaria, that through that blood the plasmodium will get injected into the body of the mosquito. After entering inside the body of the mosquito, especially in the wall of gut, in digestive tract, gut means digestive tract, the wall of digestive tract, the oocytes will develop. These oocytes will later grow in size and sporozoites will develop in oocyte. The sporozoites migrates to salivary gland of the mosquito, and once the sporozoites are formed, they will be formed in large number and they will reach into the salivary gland of the mosquito. when the mosquito will sit on other person's body for biting and sucking blood. At that time, that sting will release the saliva of the mosquito into the blood of the uh, another person or healthy person. So there will be the pathway for the plasmodium to enter into the normal another human being through the saliva or from the saliva into the blood. After getting entry inside the blood of another human, the sporozoites which are getting injected will be getting free or setting free, and they will travel to the liver. Inside liver, they will damage the liver cells. They will reach to the blood. They will start damaging red blood cells. Later on, through the blood, they will pass throughout the body and will develop into the gametocytes. In detail, you will get an idea that how the development in each stage of this plasmodium gamete takes place. This plasmodium, male and female, both the gamete cell will travel and they will show the fusion into the body of the female Anopheles mosquito, and inside the saliva or inside the body they will form number of sporozoites and will travel to the saliva. Then all the sporozoites will enter into the next human body, into the liver cell, then blood cell, and they will keep multiplying inside the blood and will be forming in large number. After getting formed into the large number, this will be sucked by another female Anopheles mosquito and it will enter into the body of the next mosquito. The life cycle of malarial parasite. The malaria parasite requires to host human and female Anopheles mosquito, as we have discussed before. The life cycle of Plasmodium starts with injecting sporozoites through the bite of the infected female Anopheles mosquitoes. This is the time when they get the entry of the Plasmodium in their body. The parasite initially multiplied within the liver cells and then attacked the red blood cells, resulting in rupturing RBCs. So this is how their mode of action start. Once they enter into the human body, they directly attack on the liver cells. They will start damaging them, causing damage to the cells of the liver. Then they will enter into the blood. Inside the blood, RBC cells will be made ruptured. They will attack on the RBC cells and tries to have a bad effect on all or maximum red cells. There is release of toxic substance called hemozoin from the ruptured RBC. So once the RBC is ruptured, the ruptured RBC will start releasing this hemozoin chemical, or it is a kind of substance which will be responsible for causing effect on the body. That body suddenly becomes chill and suddenly gets a fever. It is the action or the symptom developed because of the hemozoin kind of substance synthesized by the damaged or ruptured RBC. From the infected human, the parasite enters into the body of Anopheles mosquito during biting and sucking blood. Further development takes place in the body of Anopheles mosquito. That means fusion of the male-female gamete and formation of sporozoites and developing sporozoites in number. That all process will take place in the body of female Anopheles mosquito, and then once again they will be ready into the saliva, waiting for entering into the next normal human being through the bite of the mosquito. The female mosquito takes up gametocytes with the blood meal. Formation of gametes and fertilization takes place in the intestine of the mosquito. The zygote develops further and forms thousands of sporozoites. Means they will keep on multiplying after fertilization and formation of sporozoites. These sporozoites will keep on multiplying and will keep on forming population of them. These sporozoites migrate into the salivary glands of the mosquito, when the mosquito bite another human, sporozoites are getting entry into the body of the next human. This is how the complete transmission of malaria from healthy infected person to the healthy person through the mosquito. Next disease is amoebiasis. It is also called as amoebic dysentery. The pathogen which is causing this disease is Entamoeba histolytica, a protozoan parasite. The organ affected are large intestine of the human. Method of transmission is housefly acts as a mechanical carrier, and contaminated food and water with the fecal matter. These are the ways through which the transmission may occur. The symptoms will be loose motion and abdominal pain, stools will with excess mucus and blood clot. These are the symptoms which are seen in amoebic dysentery or amoebic dysentery. This housefly, they are sitting various places, on different places. If suppose any human is suffering from this amoebic dysentery, their fecal matter will have lot of amoebic pathogens. And if the housefly sits on the fecal matter of that infected person, thereafter they will visit to any place or any food which is open present. Then when they were sitting on fecal matter, their appendages, especially the limbs, were in contact with the fecal matter. So the pathogen will get chance to get stick to their limbs. Then when they will sit on the food items, they will have a next chance to travel from their limbs to the food. And if we consume the same food, we will obviously have the infection easily. So the contaminated food or the water, because sometimes fecal matters are getting directly drained into the water reservoirs, and from that water reservoirs, if we are getting the source of water for consumption, and if we use unpurified water to drink, easily the entry of the pathogen will be possible in our body. So this is the different ways or various ways through which we find the transmission of this pathogen from infected person to the healthy person through the contaminated food, water, and housefly are the barriers or carriers which are carrying this uh, pathogen from infected person to the healthy person. Next disease is ascariasis. This is a kind of disease which is caused by pathogen Ascaris lubricoides. It is a kind of nematode. You can see in the slide diagram. These are the two type of Ascaris. One is female, one is male, and this Ascaris through the contaminated food will reach into the stomach of the stomach intestines of the person, and after infecting the intestine, there will be the symptoms develop in the body of the human. So organs affected is the intestine of the human. Method of transmission is the contaminated water, vegetable, fruits, same like amoebic dysentery, because fecal matter of the infected person will have the nematodes present in, and if that fecal matter directly gets added into the water reservoir, if we grow some vegetables on the same water, the vegetables will have the nematodes, and the vegetable which are sold out via purchasing and without proper washing and boiling, if we consume the vegetable, raw vegetables, the entry of the nematode in our body is possible. The second way is that fecal matter, when they get added into the water, and from there only our water reservoir is nearby, then the nematodes may get entry into the water reservoir, from where we are getting supply of the water for drinking and doing different type of household work. Then the entry of the nematode in our house or in our water body is possible, and from there in our body. So the mode of transmission of, or the method of transmission of Ascaris is contaminated water, vegetable and uncooked vegetable and fruits. Symptoms: intestinal bleeding, muscular pain, fever, anemia. After entering into the intestine, the ascaris will start causing infection to the wall of intestine. The cell wall, the wall of the intestine cells will start getting damaged. Because of that, the intestinal bleeding is the symptom. Second is muscular pain. The muscular paining is also one of the symptom. Fever is also seen on the body of the person who is getting infection. And the last one is anemia. The oxygen carrying capacity of the blood goes low because of the low hemoglobin content, and that is a kind of situation called anemia, which is the infection of the nematode. Blockage of the intestinal passage, it is also one of the symptom can be seen in this disease. So these are the all symptoms and the methods of transmission of the pathogen called nematoda, or one of the nematode called Ascaris, and which is causing the disease called ascariasis. Next is filariasis, or it is also called as elephantiasis. The pathogen which is causing this disease is Vaucheria. There are two species of Vaucheria which are causing this disease. One is Vaucheria bancrofti and one is Vaucheria malai. These are the two species of this nematode parasite which are causing the elephantiasis or filariasis. The organ which is getting infection specially or affected from this pathogen are lymphatic vessels of the lower limb, genital organs. These are the areas or the organs where the infection is easily observed. Method of transmission: biting of infected female Culex mosquito. This female Culex mosquito is one of the carrier which is responsible for transmission of the pathogen who is causing this filariasis disease from infected person to the healthy person. The symptoms are chronic inflammation of the organs, means severe inflammation. The burning like sensation is called inflammation. You can sense lot of burning, and the particular organ will start showing lot of pain. Abnormal swelling of the lower limb, scrotum, penis. These are the male reproductive organs where the inflammation will be responsible for developing a swelling, and they will be swollen severely. Hence the disease name is elephantiasis or filariasis. Why the name of the disease is elephantiasis? Because you can see in the picture the person is suffering from elephantiasis or this filariasis has got the lower limb swollen, both the limbs. So you can imagine a human being with such a huge size legs will be seen like elephant's leg, and that is why this disease is named with elephantiasis. The lower limbs will get swollen so severely so that they will be seen like elephant limbs, and so it is called elephantiasis. Next disease is ringworm. This ringworm is caused by Microsporum, Trichophyton and Epiderma dermophyton. All of them are fungi. These fungi which are causing infection to the skin are responsible for ringworm kind of disease. The organs affected: skin, nails, folds of the skin and groin. These are the areas where the usually this fungal infection is causing ringworm. Method of transmission: acquired from the soil using towel, clothes, or even comb of infected individual. These are the ways through which the transmission is possible. If the person is having infection of the ringworm, if we use anything which he has used like towels or clothes which he wore before, if we use, the infection of fungi will be easily passing from him to us, that means from infected person to the healthy person. then it is also found in soil. So from soil the transmission is possible. Symptoms: appearance of dry scaly lesion in skin, nails and scalp. So when the fungal infection occurs on the particular part of the skin, there will be a kind of dry scaly lesion. Dry scaly lesion, you can see on the slide this picture, and you will get a proper idea how the dry scaly lesion will occur. The redness will be there, lot of itching will occur, and that will the circular patch will appear, and so the name of the disease is called ringworm. It appears like a ring. The infection is making a kind of circular infection patch, so it is called ringworm, or the disease name is given ringworm. The symptoms are appearance of dry scaly lesion is just now we have seen. The lesion accompanied with the intense itching is one of the symptom. So you can't sit, you will be always uncomfortable with the having itching kind of sensation in the area where the lesion has occurred. Now overall, whatever number of diseases till now we have learned, and whatever diseases we have not learned, but still we are finding around us, commonly they are exist around us. So there are some prevention and control of the infectious diseases, because the infections may pass from person to person easily. So how we can avoid the infection and how we can control the infection of diseases, such diseases which are commonly present around us. There are few criteria which we have to learn and understand and remember also. In that, maintenance of personal and public hygiene is very important, because maintenance of the hygienic practices that everybody should learn. And when we are visiting, the personal hygiene is important, but public hygiene is also important, because when we are approaching or when we are visiting different public places, whenever we have to go and visit such public places, we have to be alert that easily don't sit anywhere, don't touch any objects easily and oftenly. See that the area or the place is clean, or try to avoid sitting, touching any objects present in the public places, because we don't know from where who has come with what kind of infection. So this is why we have to be very alert and maintain the personal and public hygiene. Next is personal hygiene includes the consumption of clean drinking water, food, vegetables, fruits, keeping the body clean. So all the hygienic practices we have to follow. In that, personal hygiene includes consumption of clean drinking water. Very important. We have to consume filtered water. If possible, we have to use RO for drinking water. That will be more safe. Then food and vegetables which we are going to consume has to be washed thoroughly or number of times, and then only we should consume. Then keeping the body clean. Our self body cleaning is very important. We have to keep our body clean. Whenever we get time, we have to keep washing hands and the parts which are getting exposed to the surrounding. Public hygiene includes proper disposal of waste and excreta. Public hygiene should have the proper disposal methods of the waste and excreta. Then periodic cleaning water reservoirs, pools, because the pools where different persons or people are visiting, there are the maximum chances of getting infection passing through. So pool has to be cleaned periodically. Then water reservoirs from where we draw the water from for drinking and various purposes, we have to keep that reservoirs or the places or the portion clean. Avoiding close contact with the infected person. We don't know who has an infection, so properly we have to maintain social distancing. This is the best thing. And again, if you know the infected person or the person has an infection of a so and so disease, then you should keep a distance, so that the microorganism should not travel to you or transfer to you, and you will be safe at not getting infection, communicable diseases especially. for vector-borne diseases, controlling vectors and breeding places, because like mosquitoes, the flies, which are the vectors which are carrying the infection, we have to see that the places around us should be kept clean in such a way that we will not give them chance to breed, that means grow their population. They should not get a place of proper favorable conditions for having growth of population. Avoiding stagnation of water in and around residential areas. So wherever we are staying, that area, around that area, we have to not give chance for water to get stagnant. So there should not be any pits or unnecessary holes in or digging areas, dig out areas present around us, so that in during rainy season the rainwater gets collected and gets stagnant over there, or in any other way any kind of water or anything would get stagnant over there. So we have to avoid getting stagnation of water in or around residential area. Use of mosquito nets, important thing. We have to avoid infection which is caused through the mosquito. For that we have to avoid entry of the mosquito. Mosquito net using is one of the best method to avoid getting infection from the mosquito. Window and doors must be fitted with wire mesh. So mosquito nets are there, but otherwise also the windows and the doors should have the fitted mesh, so that otherwise also the mosquito won't get entry inside the uh, home. All the precautions are useful for vector-borne diseases like dengue and chikungunya, malaria and filarial kind of diseases. All the precautions are very important for all these kind of diseases. Next topic is immunity. Immunity is the ability of an organism to resist the infection or to overcome the infection, and it is depend on the person wise. Immunity is different, everybody's immune power is different, so everybody's resistance power is varying, and so the immunity is different. So it is the ability of living organism to resist the infection of or overcome the infection. There are two types of immunity. One is innate non-specific immunity, one is acquired immunity. The first one, innate immunity or non-specific immunity. It is inborn or natural immunity which we get from our birth or which we have from our birth. So before birth, in the form of mother, when our body is developing, that time only some amount of immunity and resistance power we get, and that is our innate immunity. After birth to start having resistance against the pathogens, against the pathogen. This is the ability of the body, which is called innate immunity or non-specific immunity. It is of two types. One is surface barrier and the second is cellular or biochemical barrier. First, surface barrier. It is the first line body defense. It includes the external barrier that checks the entry of the pathogen into the body. So it is a kind of place from where the entry of the pathogen inside the body is avoided, and so it is present on the surface of the body, and that is why it is called surface barrier. It is defined as physical barrier and physiological barrier. It is divided into two areas again, physical barrier and physiological barrier. Physical means on the body as a physical organ it is present, and this is called physical barrier. And the second one is chemical barrier or physiological barrier. It is also present on the surface, but it is a kind of chemical who is avoiding the entry of the pathogen. First is physical barrier. The important physical barrier are skin, hair and cilia of the nasal cavity, mucus lining and mucus action. First, skin. The skin prevents entry of the pathogen. The sweat produced by the sweat gland and oil produced by sebaceous gland are bactericidal and fungicidal in properties. So in our skin there are two glands. One is sebaceous gland, which is synthesizing oil or sebum, and the second one is sweat gland, which is synthesizing sweat. So both of them are having the bactericidal and fungicidal property. That means they can avoid and they can resist the bacteria and fungal infection. So their properties are said as bactericidal and fungicidal property. Next is mucus lining. The mucus lining found in respiratory tract, digestive tract, urinary tract and reproductive tract secretes mucus. The mucus traps the microbes and makes them immobilize, because the mucus is a sticky substance which is synthesized and which we have listed before where they are present in respiratory, digestive, urinary tract, reproductive tract, etc. So being present in such systems, they are synthesized, they are getting synthesized. It is a kind of sticky substance present in that area. So whichever pathogen tries to enter into this, for example, for suppose digestive tract or respiratory tract, they are trying to enter, this mucus will trap them and make them immobilize, because once they are trapped by the mucus, their body cannot move further, or their body cannot get escape from there. So they get immobilized, their movement will be stopped. Physiological barrier. Chemical secretion like lysozyme, skin secretion, saliva and earwax forms physiological barrier. So these are the different substances which are synthesized and which are called physiological barriers. In that, saliva, lysozymes, then skin secretions, then earwax, these are the physiological barriers. Lysozyme, it is an antibacterial enzyme present in tear, nasal secretion, saliva and most of the body fluids. It lyses the bacterial cell. So any bacterial cell which comes in contact with this lysozyme, they will be broken down or will be made dead. Skin secretion, the sweat and sebum has antibacterial and antifungal properties. It avoids the growth of bacteria and fungus on the skin. So this is the skin secretions which is helping the bacteria and fungi to introduce or get entry in the body in different areas. Next is saliva. The saliva contains lysozyme that lyses the bacteria, as we have learned before. Gut secretion, the gastric juice contains dilute HCl. It kills the microbes, enters through the food, and so they will be killing the microorganism. HCl will be killing the microorganism who is entering through the food. Next is earwax. The earwax secreted in the external auditory canal is bactericidal in nature. It repels the insects, it traps the dust. So the earwax will avoid the entry of the pathogen, especially the bacteria cannot enter inside the ear. For that purpose, this earwax is secreted by the ear and especially external ear, and which will be avoiding the entry of the bacteria inside the ear. So these are the all points which were important. Remaining points of this chapter we will learn in next video. Till then, thank you very much. Bye.